We have a real mixed bag tonight in terms of the nature of these stories. We have some lighter, funnier stories and some pretty heavy ones. This one definitely falls into the latter category here. It's from CNN. Because of Florida abortion laws, she carried her baby to term knowing he would die. So this is a woman named Deborah Dorbert. She carried a baby to term which had no kidneys, and it died as predicted shortly after birth. Now, in Florida, abortion is permitted after 15 weeks only if 2 doctors confirm in writing a fatal abnormality. In her case, as is the case quite often, she couldn't find 2 doctors to confirm a fatal abnormality, even one as obvious as no kidneys, because doctors are terrified of facing severe legal consequences if they misdiagnose one of these said abnormalities as fatal, because then they could be on the hook for an illegal termination.
Well, and they know they're dealing with psychos out there who might sue, like just a private religious nut job who might go and start their own lawsuit against them.
Of course. She said also here her doctors told her it was too late to terminate in Florida, which bans nearly all abortions after 15 weeks. So then the only options were, if she couldn't get those letters, were to go out of state or to carry the baby to full term. And Dorbert and her husband didn't have the money to travel. So just an absolute gut-wrenching story where this poor woman had to give birth to a baby, hold it in her arms, and have it die. Now, look, when you learn that a pregnancy is unviable, that is extremely traumatic in and of itself. To have to make the decision to terminate a pregnancy because the baby cannot make it. To have to give birth to it alive and hold it for a few minutes and watch it die in your arms, that is just unthinkable. Like, there are no words to describe the trauma that inflicts upon someone. And this is why I said when we were on with RBN on Monday, and Nick seemed to think I was right about this, I thought he was right about this, there is no guarantee that the Democrats will get blown out in 2024, because this is the kind of shit that just cannot happen. Like, this kind of shit cannot happen. People will not go for this. No matter what, they will not go for this. There are too many voters in too many key states that are just going to read a thing like this and say, well, we can't have that. No matter what, we just cannot have that. It's just too much for people. And this is in Ron DeSantis's Florida. As this story and stories like it have continued to circulate, there are conservative commentators and pundits who said, like, this could really be a major liability for him.
Of course.
Especially if Trump can angle to his left, as he signaled he might want to on this issue. And so we will see what happens. But like I said, these are the kinds of things that just scare the living shit out of people, that just, it shuts down the conversation beyond that because of just how extreme it is.
Yeah, just the nightmare of that, where she was at 24 weeks, and that's bad enough. They could have terminated the pregnancy before the Supreme Court decision. That's definitely what would have happened.
Of course.
Of course. It still would have been a tragic situation. But to put this poor woman and the whole family through this trauma of carrying this unviable child, who was nonetheless alive, who was going to be born alive for 13 more weeks, having the younger brother expecting to have a sibling and then having to tell him, that was described in the article. You know, they talked to psychologists about how to handle it. They tell them later, which they did. You know, and they just describe how the baby lived for a few hours, and she sang Bob Marley's Three Little Birds to the baby before it died. I mean, just the horror of that. The Republicans, I've said it as long as this come up, I don't think you need to really read the tea leaves to figure this out. They would much rather the Supreme Court not have done this. They loved having it as an issue. They don't like having it as a reality. But now they're stuck. What are they going to do? Now they've built the whole party around these religious fanatics. And the thing about religious fanatics is they're uncompromising. That's what makes them religious fanatics. So you turn around and you fuck them. You can't say, oh, well, where are they going to go? Meaning they can't vote Democrat. They just don't vote. That's what they used to do. Evangelicals generally did not get involved in politics until Reagan.
Yeah, I mean, they could go back to that. But on the other hand, there's always been an element of political conquest that Christians have related to as well. And so at this point, now that they have become a sort of like politically motivated group, somebody's going to have to just have a sit down with them and say, listen, we can't have this. Like there are other things we can do, or they can do in that sense, right? I don't want to out myself as a closeted Republican for real and say we, but no, like, look, they can say, look, there are things they can do to promote, Christian family values that do not involve this. Now, a lot of those, unfortunately, for the Republican Party, involve passing more socialist type, family-friendly economic policies, right? I mean, strengthening families is done through strengthening social safety nets and social systems, which they're not really interested in doing either. But look, I mean, there are things they can do to make what Bill Clinton famously said, abortion should be safe, legal, and rare. There's a reason why that was such a powerful political message for him, because that's what most people think abortion should be.
That was Hillary, actually.
Right, that's right. Actually, it was her. Yeah, but that is actually what most people think how it should be handled. Like, most people think, yes, it should be safe, it should be legal for whoever wants it, but we hope it happens as little as it has to. But this stuff is just so inhuman that, yeah, if they don't come up with an answer for this, then there's no guarantee they're going to win anywhere.
Yes, and DeSantis is in a tough spot because Trump can say whatever the hell he wants. He's not governing anything.
Right.
DeSantis actually has to govern. Right. And he's trying to win a primary that is even more dependent on those evangelicals than the general election. How does he roll back abortion laws now? How does he do that now if he actually wants to win that primary? So, yeah, and unfortunately, poor women like this have to suffer because of these political games.
Please clap.